I really like this photo. Damn! Oh my god. Hello everyone, my name's Josh from Videos by Josh, and today we're doing the Ricoh GR3 Positive Film Challenge. Essentially, that means I'll be going to a location that I know is properly photogenic and taking photos with the Ricoh GR3 point-and-shoot camera in its positive film profile. We're then going to be taking all the photos back and viewing them on the laptop together to see how I did. It's a test of the capability of the Ricoh GR3 and my ability to take photos with it. For those of you not familiar with the Ricoh GR3, it is an incredible little point-and-shoot camera. It's the king of street photography, and owners of the GR3 will attest it's great at what it does. And inside the GR3, you can choose what types of photos you want to take. Do you want to take raw photos and edit them later on the editor of your choice? That's fine, but there's also a series of color profiles which automatically color the photos in the camera. And one of them is called Positive Film, and that's the one we're going to be shooting with today for this challenge. So let me show you the location. The Caddy Shed Golf Store in Winnipeg, Manitoba is one of the city's oldest golf shops. It's a really interesting store if you're from the Winnipeg, Manitoba area. I just went into it for the first time this year, and when you walk into the kind of older concrete facade that kind of looks like a gas station from the outside, when you walk into it, you're met with a lot of golf stuff. It's one of those stores that lines the floor, the walls, everything with golf, sales. There's even some historical items in there. It's practically a museum. They sell new and used golf clubs, accessories, all sorts of stuff, and they have all sorts of vintage apparel and cool equipment there. It's such a cool hole in the wall for Winnipeg golfers and fans of the sport. And as it just so happens, I golf occasionally, so I could pick some stuff up there. So I thought, hey, why not bring the Ricoh GR3 and see how many positive film photos we could get. Let's see how I did. Okay, so this first photo was kind of like getting my eye in. I didn't really know a lot about what I was there to shoot, but I love all the drivers. Like, you know, if you're a fan of golf drivers, the biggest club, often the most decorated and interesting looking club, and they had a bunch of them in this rack. And I like the colors and the sequences of the bulbous metal heads, kind of neutral background, but you can see like the neon green, neon blues really pop. I think this photo's it's fine. The lines are kind of off, and there's nothing to look at, you know. I'm not really drawn into anything. Maybe the blue club in the middle, but you know, it was more just the clubs were there, so I wouldn't give this photo any real merit. This is me finding my feet here because I really like this photo. What I found was a basket of not all drivers, but some 3-wood kind of clubs, some smaller field drivers, and they were all so stacked together. They're all used. They all had chips and wear and character and all these little marks to them, and I thought they were so cool just kind of all together. But they were so tightly packed together that when I bunched this up for a photo, the bottom of the box, like after the heads, just fell into obscurity, and it was pure black on the filter. So you kind of get this like texture-esque photo feel where you got all this brushed metal and then it just falls away to nothing. I love all of the different unique patterns. I think it's a really cool vintage golf background. Like if I saw this on a poster or something, you know, I could vibe with it. It looks really cool. It looked like it'd be at home in anyone's pro shop, and I would say this is a cool photo. I really like it, and I think the Ricoh Positive Film Profile really pulled some interesting colors out of the brush, the highlights of the steel. Like it's almost like a little yellow in some places. Like it really, like the vintage aesthetic just comes off this photo, and I really like the texture of the clubs. So great job, Ricoh. This photo isn't anything special. It's just kind of an aside, but I saw these interesting vintage golf hats. Like when you think of vintage golf and golf stores, I don't know, you think of clubs, you think of balls, stuff like that. You don't necessarily think of hats that like fitted caps that are hanging from the top, and one of them signed presumably by a famous golfer. So just a good example of like this historical store in the Winnipeg area, and this stuff doesn't even appear to be for sale. They're just fans of golf, and as a result they have these hats on the wall, and I think that's really cool. So for the story, I'd say I like the photo, not so much for the composition, but it's not bad. I don't mind it. So here's your first real look at the inside of this golf store. And I can tell you there's just stuff everywhere. Like you can walk around in the store but it's like you're walking around in a small maze. If it wasn't so small, like it's a long and narrow store, if it wasn't so small footprint wise, you could easily get lost, because not only do they have a bunch of drivers coming out and bags piled along the walls, like you barely see any of the walls, but they also have like these makeshift wooden racks that they just stick clubs in. You just pull them out, and what's this one cost? $20? Oh sure, I'll take that one. It's really interesting. And another example of the Ricoh pulling almost yellowy chrome highlights out of the clubs themselves. It's a really interesting tinge of color, especially because you could see the blue light coming from the top hitting the clubs, and then when it hits the clubs, it changes color into that yellowy spectrum, which I really like. The whole image has a vintage aesthetic. It's kind of compounded by a bit of, I don't know if the filter's doing it. There's just this kind of like dark grime around, especially the top where the pure white panels are supposed to be. That could just be old panels, but you can kind of see the influence of, I don't have any vignetting correction on here, so you see a subtle vignette. Everything's kind of pushing down the middle. I think I'm a little close. I think I could have benefited from being backed up a bit. I also think the shot's very busy, so I don't really know what to look at. But in terms of texture, it's a really cool shot of all the drivers, and it gives you perspective as to where you are in the store. My GR3, pulling it out of the bag. I really like this photo. When you think of taking photos of the GR3, it's just like, it's such a, I don't know, it's a point and shoot camera. You're thinking of like the photographers who are taking photos of this camera, but you never just think of like, just hold it sideways. I'll take a vertical photo with my point and shoot. Maybe it's more common than I'm making it out to be, but I never think of taking vertical photos with my point and shoot. This is a vertical photo with the Ricoh GR3, and it's a little dark, if I'm gonna be honest. A little dark. I think what I did was I saw that light in the back screen, and I assumed it would kick a bunch more light out. Maybe I didn't have any form of peaking on or something, but it's a bit dark with the bags. But here's another good example where you're walking through the hallway, and it's just this narrow alley, and there's product everywhere. Everything's for sale. All of these clubs are individually labeled. The clubs at the top. Off to the right, there's a bit of a driving range where you can practice with your clubs. That's just a little bit about what the store looks like. And then way down at the end is actually like the manager's office, which is really interesting. So you go all the way down the store, and the manager works back there, and that's where they presumably crunch the golf numbers. But I don't mind this photo. It definitely gives perspective as to what the store feels like. Like, this is the store for sure. Let me just start by saying this photo is technically bad. It's not very good technically, but I just wanted to show it because it's interesting. A lot of golfers, they'll put covers on their expensive drivers and whatnot when they're in their bags, so the metal doesn't bang against the metal of the other clubs. And if I would have stopped to maybe reframe and recalibrate my settings here in a second, I probably would have gotten a better photo. But in this sea of irons that was just sitting about, but then there was just this like super vintage boxing glove that was used as a glove cover. So I thought that was cool. The photo's very dark and kind of crooked, but I just wanted to show you that because it's really interesting. I would have never thought to put like a boxing glove on a golf club. Another close-up of a club here. So that store had golf clubs from every era. I think I've seen this driver before. It's called the Beast. I think it's just advertised to be bigger and better than all the other drivers. Every driver's fighting to be that big driver that hits your ball really far. But I saw this club and I thought it made a really good individual photo, kind of just capturing the eccentricity of some of the products that this place sells, because they sell products from every generation, new and used, and I really like the Beast. So we got a picture of his eyes there, just sharp focus, and he's coming home with me today. The Beast is coming home in my camera. This photo is fun to me because it's got a lot of elements that I think work effectively. Shooting across the store, it's not very wide, so you try your best to get like a whole store shot. And what we have here is we have this rack of hats, and then above them is a rack of signed cards and posters. And it's just so unique, in terms of like a store. You don't expect a store to have all this memorabilia. But technically speaking, I like the objects in the foreground, giving it kind of a look around vibe. I like how they fall into blackness. I wish the clubs in the front of the frame were out of focus. Like, I wish there was more separation there, but it gives you context as to how crowded this store is and how busy it is. You just got clubs and hats and signed posters and like grips. Like, it's just, there's stuff everywhere. This frame, apart from the blackness, has no space. It's making me anxious just looking at it, which, if I didn't like golf, I would say this is an anxiety-inducing photo because there's just golf everywhere. Frankly, fortunately, I like golf, so it's something that I like that's everywhere. That being said, the Ricoh handled this well. I'm looking at the straight lines of the wooden pillar on the left-hand side, and I'm hardly seeing any barrel distortion from the fixed lens on the Ricoh. Like, you'd expect it to be a little bowed. I can see it conversing to the top, but nothing that I would say is like detrimental. Like, you're getting an honest photo here, and your lines are very well preserved. So good job, Ricoh. Good job, positive film, because it looks pretty good too. What else we got here? Just a sea of irons. Like, I'll tell you a bit of a story. The first time I went to this golf store is because I was looking for a specific product. I needed to buy a pitching wedge, which, if you're a golfer, you're already kind of cringing, because a pitching wedge is it's a certain type of club that comes in a set of other clubs. It's not typically something you buy by itself. So when I was in need to buy just that specific club, I was getting expensive quotes saying, well, you usually buy it as a set, so we're gonna have to custom order it, and then it's going to come and it's going to be, half the price of the set, because you don't typically buy them by themselves. But then I went to Caddy Shed here, and they just have them lying around everywhere. I was looking for something kind of mid-range. I'm not the best golfer, but I can tell a good club, and they had everything. And I'm coming back and I'm seeing this like sea of irons and wedges, and I'm just thinking, like, I like the patterns. I like all of the metal and the flex and just like the shine off of all the clubs. Like, it's really interesting. You don't see this everywhere. It's like a warehouse sale. It's like a big store. It's like it's like a bulk barn for golf. Like, it's just super interesting. And not to mention, their whole store is basically a museum. So you get a lot of really interesting views, and the Ricoh captures it well. Technically, I'm off balance here. I don't think the photo's properly exposed, and I think maybe my f-stop is questionable for a depth like this. I think I'm soft in the front and soft at the back, but the message that it conveys, like, there's just clubs everywhere. I like the Ricoh for that. And, with its size and portability, I'm able to pocket something like this and take these photos without disturbing other customers or making myself really obnoxious. It's just part of everyday life. And that's why I like the Ricoh GR3, because it's easy to make this camera part of your everyday life. And you know what? Let's do a bonus photo. The store, Caddy Shed, is across from a mechanic shop where I took this photo with my GR3, and I really like the colors of this photo. They brighten my spirit after looking at all the more muted retro nostalgia photos taken inside the golf store, like the blue sky and the soft highlights on the bumper here of this truck are really, really cool. So I think the camera, it's an excellent camera. Why do we buy Ricoh GR3s? Because they're excellent cameras that go with us wherever we need them to, and they can take high quality photos while being smaller than a phone. Like, it's an excellent camera to do any type of this just point and shoot photography. And of course, Ricoh knows that. That's why they make the camera like this in 2023. Ricoh could make a better camera, technically. They could make one. I'm confident they could make a competing camera in the mirrorless space. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say Ricoh knows that they can make a camera that's technically better than this, but they know that they have something special with the form factor and the general use case of this camera, which is why it's so easy to use. I love this camera. I love the Ricoh GR3. Now, as far as the positive film profile, again, with those yellow tinge highlights, I really like that. And again, a camera this size, look at the dynamic range. You have all of the sky, all of the shadow under the car. It's pulling detail out of these incredibly different tonal ranges and giving you one, unified image with some actually pretty vibrant colors for a more muted color profile. I love the contrast. I think the Ricoh nailed this photo. I really like it, and I think it's really unique for this set. So that was my Ricoh GR3 positive film color profile challenge. How do you think I did? Personally, I think there's a lot of opportunities to improve here. I'm a new Ricoh GR3 owner, so I look forward to taking other photos in different situations and bringing back that positive film look. But I really like using this camera. Are you a Ricoh GR3 owner? If you are, what is your favorite color profile? And more importantly, how would you tweak the positive film profile to your liking? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Remember, if you've got one of these cameras, tag me in your own positive film challenges. I'm sure you could do better than me, but as of now, I suppose I'm on top. I don't know. Let's get out there and take as many photos as we can with these incredibly versatile cameras. Till then, I've been Josh Diaz, and thank you very much for watching.